Let's continue working on this scene. Add a few more materials, and then there's a lot of experimentation that you can do. Let's go here to the Pro Materials and select Masonry CMU. Now you notice there's not much set up here by default. And essentially you will need to have a map to get a proper pattern out of a Masonry CMU material. There is actually one already in your material editor here at the top. So here's the end result of having rendered that area of our scene, and you can see our CMU material which has been applied here to this rear wall. Let's go ahead and find another type of Pro material, metal. Now metals are traditionally a place where mental ray really shines. You can here in the Pro material metal go ahead and choose your material type. So let's say we choose copper. Let's go ahead here and choose a finish. We'll keep it actually at polished. And let's assign that to one of these vase objects in the scene. And re-render. Now, interestingly, with copper, you can actually use this patina value, increase it, and your copper material will appear oxidized. You can see here in the sample area, and once we would go ahead and render this, this would also get applied. Now you can choose some other materials. Say you go here and choose ceramic again. But in this case here, we're just going to use it to give us a ceramic appearance to one of these vases. Now by default, you can see when we applied that particular material onto this vase, both these vases had the material applied to it. That is due to an option here in the material editor called Propagate Materials to Instances. So if you want to turn that off, then you can assign different materials to different instances. So let's say in this case here we'll use metallic paint. And assign a metallic paint to another one of these vases. So here's the end result of our renderings using the various material that we've been playing with in this tutorial. There's one other thing that we'll look at momentarily, and then we'll move on to another scene. So one of the problems you can have when you're applying materials that have a definitive pattern, like our block here, and even our floor pattern, is the arbitrary placement of the pattern on the surface of the floor or wall. Let's just zoom in here to this corner to see where that problem is. So obviously in a situation like this, we wouldn't want a quarter of a block to start before the floor. But the box has its own mapping coordinates, which we can't really control. So what we'll need to do is actually apply mapping coordinates that we can control. So one way of doing that is by using something called the Uvw Modifier. We can select this object and then apply Uvw Map. It chooses, because of the nature of the object, by default a planar map, and also the fact that it has real-world map size selected. Let's get a good view of this in a left view. And I'll actually enlarge this. And what we'll do is we'll go down into the Uvw Mapping Modifier and select the gizmo object. Now this gizmo object, if we were not using real-world map size, if we were actually specifying the size here, we would actually see a rectangle on the surface with the dimensions that we indicate here. In this case, all we see is our transform gizmo, and we can manipulate that, move it down slightly. So our CMU pattern starts exactly where we want it. And of course you can repeat that on the floor as well. Get out of the gizmo level, select the floor, apply Uvw Map to it, and adjust the positioning of the gizmo. And let's just render a very small region. That corner there. So this is now the end result of having adjusted the mapping coordinates of both the floor and the wall. And it looks like we got it pretty close. We might need to just tweak it a little bit, but we can see that the start of the tile is approximately at the edge of the wall, as well as a single bit of mortar before the start of the CMU.